All right, so next he moves to hypothesis.
Right.
Right.
Hypothesis is simply an unobserved explanation. Take a standard gloss of scientific methods. So you have the observation, you see the sun move, then you have the hypothesis. Oh, well, clearly we're at the center because it's moving around us. That's what I see. Prediction, I have a prediction that there'll be other bodies in the sky that moves around us. There's an experiment. I look up, I see the moon. Hey, the moon's moving around us too. Look at that. My theory is proven until something else happens. So again, this is kind of a low-key version of what the scientific method is, and we'll cover a bit more of that.
He calls it a G-rated version, right?
Yeah, it's more messy than that.
Yeah.
So we come up with a theory that makes sense of the facts that the world behaves this way. So our hypotheses for are really just theories. One of the main ways we decide which ones are better than others is by comparing how well they predict the world's behavior. So if we go back to our geocentric universe, I see the sun go that way. I predict if my hypothesis, my theory is true that we're at the center of the universe, then I'll see other bodies move around me. Well, there's the stars, they move around me. There's the planets, they move around me. The moon moves around me. I can even throw something up in low atmosphere and it keeps going around me. I am clearly the center of the universe.
That's right. So. Okay. And don't forget it.
Yeah, exactly. and so how do we come up with these predictive behaviors? Well, we do it by experimenting. We look at things, we test things, whatever our observation is. We want to find similar areas where we can have an experimentation where we're reproducing something, or we're checking our theory or hypothesis to see if we can expand the explanation power of that.
Yeah, and the idea of explanation here has to do with we make the idea of testing the theory is we make a prediction and then we see how well what we predicted to happen, how well that happens.
You essentially want to try and destroy it. You want to throw everything in the kitchen sink at it.
Well, that's one way, right? I think Karl Popper, was the philosopher of science. Karl Popper said that's what scientists really do. They're not trying to come up with theories; they're trying to defeat theories, right? Yeah. And so, that's one way to look at what scientists are trying to do, right?
Or there are people, and I forget the really good book. It was Einstein versus Bohr about the formation of the atom, right?
Right.
And man.
Well, it was quantum theory in general.
And they were so key. Like,
in fact, he's gonna talk about that briefly.
Yes.
Here. Yeah.
I mean, both sides were just vehemently opposed to each other until all the theories, explanations stacked up, all the evidence stacked up, and the Bohr side was throwing up their hands and it's got to be this way, but we don't like it.
Yeah, actually, Einstein spent most of the rest of his life trying to figure out how that all worked, right? and couldn't come up with a way to explain that. So he says explanation is of a specific kind, the unobserved kind, right? That's the idea. So hypotheses and theories are basically the same thing. Theories is more broadly many hypotheses, right, to help us to explain. And then a hypothesis is a narrow version of the theory.
Geocentrism would be a theory. Things move around me, or things move in relationship to me or the Earth would kind of be a more specific hypothesis.
Right. So they're really the same thing, just in many theories is what he calls a mini MI.
Micro versus macro evolution of theories.
Yeah.
And so throughout all this, we have to remember that what we're ultimately after is that scientists tell us, or even hints, that God's existence is unlikely, whether naturalism is most likely true. So
and he's going to come back to that, right?
Yeah.
But so he wants to help us to focus. That's the main thing that he's getting at here, but he's trying to help us to see how hard science really is and how difficult this particular claim can be had to hold. Right?
We know God doesn't exist, and we also know, so that's the negation of something, we also know that naturalism is the only true proper path
for science.
The narrow path.
That's right.
Yeah, not the wide path.
Right. Right.